Hello, everyone. Welcome to the debut of the Mike and Fuzz Show. Well, with the What If Disney Plus series starting up next week, today we decided that we are going to count down our personal favorite what if or other multiverse stories from the comics. And if you're not familiar with what if stories, they're ones that explore alternate timelines in the multiverse to show what would happen if major moments from the comics happened differently. And so let's get started. So, number five on my list is Superman Red Sun. So, one of my favorite philosophical questions of all time that I love to debate with lots of people is whether we are products mostly of our nature or our nurture. And no comic explores that question better than Superman Red Sun, which asks, what if Superman's rocket ship had landed in the Soviet Union rather than in Kansas in the good old United States? And how this change in environment affects him becomes a really great read, as instead of fighting for truth, justice, and the American way, instead is described as becoming the champion of the common worker who fights a never-ending battle for Stalin, socialism, and the international expansion of the Warsaw Pact. And ultimately, the story plays out and shows you ways that he, like really all of us, are shaped both by our nature and nurture. And it's just a really fun read. Fuzz, welcome to the show and tell us what is number five on your list.
Number five on my list of my top five favorite alternate universe is featured in volume one, I believe is issue 22. What if Doctor Doom became a hero? In this issue, Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom, during his college days, at a pivotal moment, agrees with Reed Richards about one of his calculations, and ultimately turns out to be in his favor. It doesn't blow up in his face. He doesn't get disfigured, and he starts leading a life of a superhero. He Mephisto's featured as the main villain because his mother, Doctor Doom's mother, Cynthia Von Doom, was a witch. She made a pact with Mephisto, and her soul is captured by Mephisto. Uh, Doctor Doom is trying to free free his mother's soul from Mephisto. This kind of leads to a common theme that I've noticed over the years with Marvel. Doctor Doom eventually does become a hero in 616. What happens is that Marvel features stories many years ago, or they feature in What If, and I have a feeling like they like to see or gauge public interest in a storyline, and then a couple of years later, maybe a few years later, maybe 10, maybe even 25 or 30 years later, they feature this story in their actual series, and it's really well done. It's called Infamous Iron Man.
All right, thanks. And I always love any mention of Doctor Doom. He's my favorite supervillain of all time.
Mine too.
He's going to make an appearance on my list for a reason in a little bit. But number four for me is What If number 24, which is What If Wolverine was the Lord of the Vampires? And that story blends two genres that I love, superheroes and gothic horror. And so this story goes back to Uncanny X-Men number 159, when the X-Men saved their teammate Storm from the clutches of Dracula. But in the what if version of this story, Dracula has drained enough of her blood by the time the X-Men get there to rescue her that he's actually already turned her into a vampire and has full mental control over her. And so when they get her, they think, oh, we've got Storm. But little do they know she's actually a vampire. And so she attacks them and starts turning them into vampires. And so Dracula is all excited about this. But much to his dismay, he finds out that Wolverine actually has a stronger will than he was expecting and is able to resist his mind control. And so Wolverine ends up fighting Dracula, ends up killing him, and then he becomes Lord of the Vampires. And then he sends out this new vampire army, including X-Men that he's in control of, to start hunting down other mutants. and other powered threats and turning them into vampires. And eventually, this ends with him killing Doctor Strange. But Doctor Strange's astral form, or his ghost, basically reaches out to the Punisher, and then he tells the Punisher how he can kill all the vampires, and then gives him his magical cape. And so the Punisher ends up loading his guns with silver bullets and holy water and all kinds of things meant to destroy vampires. And then he goes on this wild vampire killing spree. And it ends with him ultimately having a showdown with Wolverine at the end of the story. And just like all the what if stories, it's really fun. And it showed me how awesome the Punisher can be. When I first started reading comics, I was confused at how the Punisher was special because he just seemed like a regular dude with guns. And how could this guy be important in a world where the Hulk lives and Spider-Man lives and Thor? But this issue really showed me, because of his military strategy and ingenuity and creativity, how he could be a real threat, even though he was just a human. So that's my number 4. What do you got number 4, Fuzz?
Number 4 for me starts off with a Guardians of the Galaxy, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, which included Yondu, Starhawk, Charlie 27, and some of the others. His name was Michael Korvac. He started off as a technician that somehow ended up gaining cosmic power through machines of or computers from Galactus's world ship, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I read the story, but it's called "What If the Avengers Became Pawns of Korvac?" Ultimately, Korvac becomes so powerful, it's known as the Korvac saga. And this issue is sort of like one of those issues where anything can happen. These Marvel pantheon, the pantheon of Marvel, forces of nature, such as Galactus, the Stranger, the Shaper of the Worlds, a Grandmaster, In-Betweener, a Living Tribunal, Lord Chaos, Master Order. All of these cosmic figureheads of the Marvel universe are come together and try to take down Korvac. So it takes the combined might of the Avengers to take him down. In this issue, the Avengers, unfortunately, are unable to defeat Korvac, and he becomes way more powerful. And he basically takes over the Marvel universe, and it has a pretty twisted ending that would make Jim Starlin smile, or at least I think it would, because it's very similar to what Thanos would do. Let's just say it would make Thanos smile.
There you go.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, I know you, of course, love cosmic stories, so that is certainly one right up your alley. All right, well, number 3 for me is Kingdom Come. And this is a DC story set in the future where the question is asked, what would happen if the public began to support vigilantes instead of traditional superheroes who have a code against killing and all that kind of thing? And it begins when the vigilante named Magog kills the Joker, and the public rejoices when Magog kills the Joker, much to Superman's sorrow. Superman says, "No, we can't kill this. This isn't right." But the public responds basically by saying, "What do you mean? The Joker is so evil. He deserves to be killed, and it's fine to have this vigilante justice." And Superman is so upset by this that he ends up deciding to retire. And many of the other heroes of the Justice League end up retiring as well. And so the protection of the world is then turned over to these vigilantes, and that includes many of the children of the Justice League heroes. Well, eventually that doesn't turn out so well for the world, and things get bad enough where Superman and these heroes decide to come out of retirement to fight the vigilante group. But then also Batman and some other heroes who had never retired end up fighting both groups because he's upset at Superman for basically quitting when things got tough. And so it's a really fun story where it involves superheroes fighting each other, which is something you see in these kind of what if alternate world storylines, and explores also what those heroes are going to be like when they're older, and also explores what their children are going to be like. And so it's just really fun read. It's also beautifully illustrated by Alex Ross, one of the best artists of all time. So a great one. That's my number three. And what do you got, number three, Fuzz?
Number three for me, um, volume two, um, issue 49, features What If Silver Surfer Possessed the Infinity Gauntlet? That's taking two of my favorite things, Silver Surfer and the Infinity Gauntlet. And the Infinity Gauntlet, the original, Adam Warlock and Silver Surfer scheme that one while Thor, Hulk, and Wolverine are attacking Thanos, when he's powered himself down to make it more challenging. So he has just to feel like he's defeated the Marvel universe, Marvel superheroes, um, by giving them a little bit of a chance. He decides, they decide, Adam Warlock says, Silver Surfer, you can use your faster than speed of light, and at the key pivotal moment, steal Thanos's gauntlet when he's not paying attention, because he's getting into fisticuffs with Thor and Hulk at the same time. So that is interesting, because in this What If issue, that actually succeeds, and he actually takes the gauntlet. Now the plan was that Adam Warlock would say to Silver Surfer, "Hey, I'm devoid of emotion. I purged her, or the goddess of the good side, and Magus, which is my evil side. So I'm going to rule the universe through logic alone." Silver Surfer has a different mindset on this. He's like, well, I have always been noble, and I've always been a good guy, and I'm going to do it things my way. I have the gauntlet. Why am I going to give it to you? I don't really even trust you. So ultimately, let's just say that he purges the universe of evil and a certain red demon. And you'll have to read that story, but it is a very interesting take on the Marvel Universe.
Great pick once again. Well, number two for me is What If number four, which is what if the alien costume had possessed Spider-Man? So back in Amazing Spider-Man number 258, Spider-Man finds out that the costume that he had brought back from the off-planet event Secret Wars wasn't just fabric, but it was actually an alien. And so he gets Mr. Fantastic to help him take it off. And if you follow the comics, eventually this alien unites with Eddie Brock, and they become Venom. But this story explores what would have happened if Mr. Fantastic couldn't get the alien off of Spider-Man. And so what we find out is the costume, or the alien, is actually a parasite, and it feeds off of human adrenaline. And so it gets Spider-Man to do these increasingly risky things so that he secretes adrenaline that he can then feed off of. But while he's doing this, it's feeding off Spider-Man's life force. And so eventually, basically, he drains all the energy that Spider-Man has, and he realizes, okay, Peter Parker, Spider-Man's coming to an end of his life. And so he's, well, I got to go find another hero to start draining. And so then he goes and takes Spider-Man to confront the Hulk. And then he leaps from Peter Parker, from Spider-Man, to the Hulk, and then he takes over him. And then this continues on to Thor and all these kinds of things. And it's just really exciting to see the alien symbiote possess these other characters. So you see all of a sudden the Hulk with the alien symbiote, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. And of course, now, like we've talked about, things that are in the What If universe gets explored in the mainstream universe at some points. And so lots of people have worn the symbiote now. But at that time, none of that stuff had happened. And so it was amazing to see the Hulk covered with the alien costume, and then Thor covered with the alien costume. So I loved it for that reason.
My number two pick, since we're talking about alternate universes in any different universe, different companies have gotten into doing that. Now, Star Wars, everybody loves episode 4, 5, and 6. What if, can you imagine, what if at the key pivotal moment in episode 4, Luke Skywalker had missed that target to destroy the Death Star? What would have happened then? This is called Star Wars Infinities, and this explores the very thing. In this first graphic novel, New Hope, that's basically the plot of, Luke missed. What are we gonna do now? Kind of thing. So it's really worth getting into. Empire Strikes Back looks at a couple of different things, such as what if Luke Skywalker froze to death on planet Hoth uh, during that Imperial attack? That would have been bad. Or what if Boba Fett instead of Han Solo was sealed in carbonite? That's pretty interesting too, especially nowadays with Mandalorian running. So that would be pretty interesting. What if Yoda trained Princess Leia to be a Jedi? For Return of the Jedi, what if Princess Leia, Chewbacca, and Lando Calrissian got killed when that thermal detonator accidentally went off in Jabba's palace? Or what if something like the Ewoks, for example, what if they started attacking the Imperials, which they did, but they were also going to start attacking the rebels? How would Return of the Jedi have turned out? So Star Wars Infinities looks at really, really different key plot points from our favorite space opera and gives it a different spin. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading it, and it's very well done.
That's awesome. I didn't even know Star Wars had its own what if stories. So I am definitely going to check those out. Super excited about those. You definitely inspired me for that one. Well, for number one for me is what if number 25, which is what if the Marvel superheroes had lost Atlantis attacks? And the reason I love this issue is because it is where my love of Doctor Doom began. In a recent video, I mentioned that as a kid, I read the Secret Wars storyline over and over and over again because it was one of the few comics that I owned. And because Doctor Doom was arguably the main villain of that storyline, I grew up hating him. Of course, as a kid, you love the heroes and you hate the villains. And so that's how I felt about Doctor Doom, that he's just disgusting. I can't stand him. But then I read What If number 25, and it changed my opinion about him 180 degrees. And so in that story, the elder god Set has come to the earth and conquered it and turned most everyone that survives into lizard people. And there's a few people left behind, mostly heroes, but a couple of villains like Doctor Doom, who then join forces to try to stop Set so that he can't go to other worlds and enslave them as well. And it does not turn out well for our group of Earthlings. They just get ransacked. And one of the great things about what if stories is that everybody can die and it doesn't matter. And so there's certainly plenty of death in that issue. But one of my favorite moments is when everybody's getting destroyed, all the Earthlings are getting destroyed, and Doctor Doom stands up and he says, "No, I am going to destroy Set." And Set has is this seven-headed serpent creature, and he ends up destroying one of the heads. And then the other heads all focus their intention on him and blast down like this fire or energy on him and is destroying him. And as they're destroying him, he's like, "You can't stop me, I'm Doom." And he's like melting away, but he's still got this fist in the air and like, "You can't stop me." And I was just like, wow, this dude is super brave and he's getting destroyed and yet he's defiant till the end. And I was just like, man, this guy is awesome. And so that began my love of that character. And so I love that story for that reason.
My number one issue is and it goes with the theme of storylines being featured one time in What If, and then years later they're being featured as actual storyline. It was volume 2, issue 16. What if Conan the Barbarian fought Wolverine? And you're like thinking, back then, I was like wondering, how is that even possible? Conan existed 10,000 years. I mean, sure, time travel, but just the idea of what do those two characters have in common? I think it all went down to the fact that one is a barbarian and one is a savage badass with claws. One has a sword and he's just like badass. They're both badass characters. What would happen if they got together? They fought each other. And it's a phenomenal storyline. It's savage. They're brutal with each other, which is featured heavily now because Conan the Barbarian has landed in his latest iteration with Marvel, has landed in the Marvel universe, and he's being featured in the Savage Avengers.
Great picks, Fuzz. Thanks for sharing. Before we wrap
Thank
up, we
you.
want to announce we have a little giveaway, something real small. We're obviously small time and
Cool.
trying to build a little bit of audience, but we want to try to have a giveaway with each of our episodes that's kind of tied in thematically to what we're talking about. And so we're going to give away this issue. So as some of you may know, there is a Craven movie currently in the very initial stages of development. But his most famous storyline is called Craven's Last Hunt, which lasts 6 issues in the different Spider-Man titles, probably in the late 80s. And this is related to that storyline. And it's what if Craven the Hunter had killed Spider-Man? So we're going to give this issue out for free. All you have to do is comment comment below. What is your favorite what if story? Or is there any what if storyline that you would be interested in having someone to write? And if you leave a comment, we'll put you in a drawing and we'll obviously draw a name and send it out to the lucky winner. So thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed this top 5 countdown for each of us. I know we had a good time and look forward to doing the next one.
Thank you, everyone, for joining our first show of the Mike and Fuzz show. It was wonderful to have you here, and it's wonderful to do this with you guys. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you, and look forward to seeing you all in our next episode.